Over the past week, I've actually been really curious over what Kubo's like overall plans are going to be from the way. Like when we got the one shot, I was interested in like where obviously where it fit inside the Bleach world. Is it canon? What is like is Kubo gonna like figure out a way to integrate this into the main Bleach story, or like what's he gonna do? I actually thought about that for a little bit, like after it came out, and then I didn't really think about it too much because it was a one shot, and I was like, I have no idea like if he's gonna continue or if this was just maybe some fun little thing he did. But obviously now we have Burn the Witch doing 4 chapters in Shonen Jump. I'm I'm very curious to what is Kubo's plan that he's going to have with this being only 4 chapters, because I was thinking while I was reading it, because like there was like mention, like obviously like we know of like the different like groups within the these guys in this branch of the Soul Society, like like the Pipers and the was it the Sabers, I think. I was like thinking while doing it, I was like, I should probably like learn each of these, like what exactly is like different about each of these groups, like because I didn't really remember exactly what is like the gap between the Sabers and like Pipers, if I'm getting that correctly. But I was like, oh, I don't really know how much of like I need to memorize for like great like down in for the even like something like ranks, because if the series is only 4 chapters, and it's like, well, I don't want to get too like mega invested if if what we're getting isn't going to like carry very long. Like if it's only going to be 4 chapters, like should I even spend enough time getting like deep into it? But like my my curiosity and like questions towards it is like, well, if it's only 4 chapters, then why would Kubo even really bother like introducing all these new characters and this new like that new like council group that he saw, like this other big shot group and whatnot? I'm I've actually been wondering if he's going to, instead of it being like, oh, 4 chapters and that's it, is if he's going to have Burn the Witch be a like bi-weekly or monthly series, is my guess. Because I don't really know what the point of like introducing this much like this many new characters and this much like new stuff into like something is already really big as the Bleach world, and just kind of like leave it short if 4 chapters and that's it. I could see, other than like having like a just different release time, that they kind of make it easier on him, is if he does more novels. It's definitely a very it's definitely like a really interesting topic right now, because I like Bleach a lot. I personally I like Bleach probably more than any of the other big like series in the big three, like Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. I think I've always really liked Bleach, and for a while I was like always between Naruto and Bleach when it came to those three. And then I realized like I remember way more about Bleach. I remember more characters. I remember a lot more of stuff that went on. So I was like, oh well, I think definitely if that's the case, then I must like Bleach more. And I do really like Bleach. It is a good series, even with some of the faults that it has. Like every series has faults, but like I still really like Bleach. I still really enjoy it, and even like parts like I can still reread it. And I mean, even like look at something like the hype train was something like Game of Thrones, and then like how bad the last like 2 seasons were, and it was so much that I'm like I can't even really rewatch the series because I don't want to have to go through that horrible like mess of an ending. Whereas like even if I wasn't a huge fan of like how they beat Juha, like I still loved the entirety. Like I love Bleach enough that I'd be perfectly fine rereading. And I have gone through Bleach a couple times. I've watched the anime multiple times. I've read through it a couple times. It's definitely my favorite out of that trio. And so like when we got Burn the Witch initially with the one shot, I was really excited. And then obviously now with like its current like running, I just really want to know like what's the plan, because I would be very happy to see like, oh, Bleach is or Burn the Witch is going to return. It's going to be a monthly series, or it's going to be in the novel. It's going to have novels, kind of like kind of like what Bleach has been having for the last couple years. I'd really be like hyped about that. But anyway, this chapter we get a pretty good amount more like information about what's going on and how exactly like some of the events of this world are really gonna go down. Like it starts out, you have like this guy from or this woman from like Nini's like music group that I guess quit for some reason. Like there was some like dispute between them. And then we found a little bit about like the dragons, because there's like obviously the dark dragons, which are kind of like deranged. Like obviously in this world, like they have hollows and stuff, or over in Japan. I'm wondering if it's like different parts of the world, maybe from different environments and different cultures. Maybe the souls just all like they just kind of mature or alter and just are warped differently. Like obviously, if there's good like dragons, like instead of hollows, they become dragons. If there's good ones that are beneficial, then it's like, oh well, there's got to be something about just like this area and maybe the people that they ended up being different. Or maybe it's the way that the kind of ended up changing over time that maybe helped shape the culture of where they're around. I don't know. Either way, it's still a really interesting concept to kind of just to look at. I definitely want to see more of what Kubo's got planned. But he's like showing all these, like little dragons doing stuff like, oh, these ones that like potted plants pretty much. There's ones that like filter water. There's like ones for transportation. And after that, I also really liked the way that the newspaper, like the reverse London newspaper worked. Like it's I know people have like compared it a little bit to like the Harry Potter one, but like it's a little bit different. Like they're the same paper, but you probably have to use like magic in order to unveil the layer, pretty much. Like, oh, it's pretty much like a magic passcode in order to get the actual content or the secret content of these papers, which I think is obviously really cool. I think that's just a really neat like little world building piece to put in there. I think that's just beneficial to kind of like understanding the setup. I'm at a weird spot also with the characters. Like Nini seems a little bit too aggro to me, at least for my taste. I don't dislike her character, but I'm always just like, hey, this bitch needs to calm down a little. The girl Noel, I like her so far. She seems pretty cool. And then the dude Balgo, I'm indifferent about him because he's so far a little bit simpish. But it's towards like one character who's obviously directly adjacent to him. So I'm just like, that's better than most simps. I would give it a little bit. He's just really hyped for this girl, but I do really like his optimism. That is the one thing that I think counteracts like when I'm like, man, you need to calm down about this girl. I do like he seems like a very cheerful dude. I like his like little dog. I think that just is a nice little character trait, because I figured like looking at him that he would maybe be like more of a cool guy. He just seems like he would be, just from glance, like, oh, maybe he's just some chill dude, but he seems to be just some high energy, optimistic dude. And I don't know, I think that's pretty fun. And then like there's like talking about like the situation that they're in, and like, oh, they got called, they got a job to do. There's like somebody allegedly illegally hoarding a dragon, and they're like, okay, that's a big deal. We got to go figure this out. We need to take care of this. And while they're going to do it, like there's obviously commotion going on. There's obviously stuff going on in this town. And when they get there, it's this girl Macy, who was the one that left Nini's group. And I don't know. I when I was at this point of the chapter, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, I wasn't too hyped on like the content of the events right now. I was enjoying some like the small world building stuff, introduction of the dragons. Obviously, it's a little bit of a meme that I've done like in some streams and like some videos, but I'm like, well, does it have dragons? And I know I always really liked cool dragon designs. Like obviously, one thing I always really liked about Hiromashima. Well, I can't say always about Hiromashima, because Hiromashima's dragon designs didn't get really cool until after he became like a big fan of Monster Hunter. Because back in Rave Master, his dragons were pretty standard, and then he played Monster Hunter, his dragons got crazy, which is Monster Hunter also. I love those dragons as well. It's just badass designs. But I do like Kubo's designs too. They're weird. They're very interesting, and then obviously some series when I see their dragons. And actually, if you count Naruto's wood dragon, but that's kind of not really a dragon. But if you count it, kind of like Black Clover, like S Salamander, it's a spirit. It's not a dragon, but if you count it. But I don't like One Piece. But I do like Kubo's because they're not pretty, but they're weird enough to kind of like hold their own spot instead of just being like really unfortunate look. But like this character, I guess the thing is like she's like a lesbian. That's the thing for Nini, and she's got like issues with anybody talking to her, and there's like some clear signs of craziness around like her obsession with her. I was just like, I don't really care about this character because we haven't really seen anything about her, and the first thing we really get is she's just like some weird obsessive crazy person. I was just like, okay. It was upsetting a little bit to me internally because I was like almost done with the chapter, and also in this chapter is 35 pages, which makes me think that they're gearing up to do monthly. Is just my guess. But then this guy shows up, this dude, and I've seen people talk about him over the last I hadn't read the chapter yet, and I had only seen pictures, and I didn't know if I assumed he was from like the Bleach novels because I saw a different character. I don't know her name. I think she's from the novels. She's like, I guess she's a Fullbringer or something. This woman, and she's like the equivalent of like Unohana or Yuri or something. I guess a big deal. It's like, oh well, maybe this character is also from the novels. Maybe he's like from one of the Bleach novels. I thought he was cool looking, but I didn't really. It's like, oh, if he's from the novels, I don't know if I'm really too much about him. I was like, I probably will buy the Bleach novels. I don't know if I'm gonna read them all. I think I'll end up doing it eventually, but like it's not a fast track because I know for a good amount about the Bleach novels, not a lot, because like one of my friends like got as much information as he can from big Bleach fan groups and like translators on like internet stuff, as well as like YouTube videos and whatnot around like a lot of the stuff that was put into the series through like Camp for Your Own World and stuff. But this guy apparently is instead Burn the Witch. I wonder if he was introduced in one of those other series, and then obviously like where he's gonna be centered in. This guy does look cool, this dude Bruno. I definitely want to see what his powers are. He just looks badass already. Like I think he's got that cool coat with the fur lining. He's got this like cow skull or probably dragon skull. Actually, it's more accurate on his shirt. He's got these fingerless gloves, this badass look to him. I think this dude just looks interesting. I definitely want to see him more in what he's going to do in the next chapter. I'm guessing he's a big deal and it's going to be ranked pretty high. Just from what I assume. One thing I will say, and just it's not a hate thing. It's more of there's some double standards thing. And Bleach fans, I think you understand what I'd be saying. What I'm putting out there. It's not a hate thing. I don't mind, but it's like when Eden Zero came out, having to listen to all the people like hate on Hiro Mishima for having characters of similar design just because it's art and some characters are bound to look similar. I mean, I said this before with like Noel has a bit of a similar appearance to Byakuya. Looks kind of like a female Byakuya. It's just like I don't know. I'm glad that Bleach fans don't have to put up with it because it was extremely annoying and stupid. But it's just like those guys that were complaining about Mishima. I don't see them talking and complaining about Kubo. Just saying. But I'm personally fine with it because it's like, yeah, it's their guy's art style. Of course, some characters doesn't really matter if their personalities and stuff are way different, backstories and different powers and roles. I don't know. Either way, some Bleach fan is just like probably thought about that at one point and is sweating, and then hear me saying it's like, I'm glad that they don't have to deal with that annoying like dumb thing. It's like, who cares? The characters are very different. They have like a slightly similar face, but it's like every other piece of their outfit and their design is way different. But it's like their eyes are similar. It's like anyway, it's a dumb thing. I feel like anybody from like Eden Zero or anybody that like a Fairy Tail or even now Bleach, anybody that's had like a sequel series where or just even one by the same author, hearing like complaints about that, it just cares if they look a little bit similar, if everything else about them is different. But anyway, comment up below, thumbs up the video, but friend the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Other than that, I appreciate everybody who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening.